The Shadow of the Father, Jan Dobraczynski. Part 1, The Wife. Chapter 10, 11, and 12. The journey was tough in the dry dust. Of a road burned to ashes. The greenery had turned grey, and it crumbled and twisted. Leaves similar to grey cockons floated with the slightest of the wind. The grains in the fields had been reaped, and predaceous birds were floating low above them, with their wings spread wide, looking for prey amongst the protruding shocks of barley sheaves. The hot wind, picking up from time to time, raised clouds of dust and threw it into the travellers' eyes. The merchants of the caravan rode their camels fast. The people who joined the caravan had to walk quickly, so they would not get too far behind. Nobody wanted to be left alone on this empty road. Sitting on his donkey, the merchant's servant called out to the people, "Faster, faster, move faster. If you move yourself like that, we will leave you behind." Within a group of men who joined the caravan was a potter that was heading to Jerusalem to help his brother to make utensils and to sell them during the holidays that lasted almost through the entire month of Tisri. Two young bricklayers were there too, who had been tempted by the king's calling to build the temple. Miriam was the only woman in the caravan. The three men walked just behind the camels, and they were floated in constant conversation. She was glad they were not paying attention to her. Only the servant riding his donkey spoke to her from time to time. She answered him, though she did not encourage any conversation. She preferred to walk in silence and to think of the past day's events. In the evenings, when they stopped for rest, she served the companions of her journey. She regarded this as a very natural thing, and they accepted her care, neither with surprise nor with gratitude. Women exist to serve the men, though. It did not seem strange to them that she, while they were lying on the ground and talking, would prepare the meals for them and would walk to the spring to fetch water in the vase. Then the night fell. All the people prepared for sleep near the fireplace. Miriam would wrap herself in a coat and lie on the ground too. The semi-circled sky spread wide, blinked with stars above her, but often the sleep did not come straight away. Lying with one hand under her head, she would touch her body questioningly. Is it possible that what happened has happened for real? How did it happen? Nothing has been confirming the unusual matter so far. Nothing except for the calling. The people, being tired of the journey, snored beside her. The camels groaned and breathed heavily in their sleep. From time to time, something cracked within the glow of the fireplace. She did not hear these sounds. Her thoughts had such deep current that was absorbing everything surrounding her. She has already forgotten when she had been called to that other life palpitating in her under the one she was living among the people now. She must have been a small child then. Her mother was already dead. She died so early, and she was under Aunt Elizabeth's protection when one sunny afternoon suddenly everything around her went quiet. Somebody called for her. Even a while ago she was alone in the flourishing pasture. Suddenly she saw the one that was speaking. It stood some distance similar to a large white flower that dominated over the other flowers. It said, "Welcome, Miriam." It said nothing further then, but there was something in its deep voice she had never experienced before, something like a great and inexpressible respect. She was surprised and ashamed with that. She remembered who she was, a poor orphan of whom her relatives had taken care. The features of her mother's face had disappeared quickly. From her childish memory, more permanent though was the teaching than Anne, although always preoccupied, was passing to the child sitting at her feet. After Anne, Elizabeth began to say the same teachings. It was already hard sometimes to separate what she was recalling, where her mother's words ended and where the words of her aunt began. "The world you have been living in," the woman used to say, "has been submerged in sufferings like a stone in water. Wherever you go, whatever you turn to, you will meet fears, pains, and anxiety. You will see illness, hunger, and hatred. You will see the sufferings of people, and you yourself will see what suffering is. Nobody will escape from it, but sufferings of others will hurt you more than your own. Therefore, watch out carefully and try to see what your eyes have overlooked. If the highest allows all people to suffer, it is not because he wants that suffering. The world has rejected him the same way like a bad son who walks away from his father, but he has not renounced the world. He has not abandoned it like a work done badly. He wants to save it, and he has promised that salvation. He could break down a person's will, yet he desires the human being to understand its mistakes, to remind it of the Father's love. We cannot do this ourselves, and he wants to help us even in this. He will send someone who will teach us. Remember that, Miriam. Any Israelite woman could be the one who can give birth to the promised one. That moment will come today or tomorrow or in 100 years, because he always keeps his promises. Therefore, every woman has to be ready to take that blessed hardship. Every woman must remember that what will come upon her will not be only her own happiness and pride, but it also will be the salvation of the world and liberation from suffering. Sitting at her mother's feet, or maybe it was the aunt, used to ask, "Can we make this happen faster?" "The highest know his time," she heard from above her. "A human being will not make him do it faster." "Maybe we need to ask him," she was asking further. "Maybe we need to do something to make him act faster. I already have seen so many people who are suffering. I am so sorry for them. I would like to help everyone. We need to tell him. He sees all and knows all. But if he loves, he will become emotional and touched. We only need to tell him, we need to ask him, we need. Miriam, you must remember who he is. Even his name must not be spoken. His ways are not ours, and his thoughts are far above ours. What he has decided is good and unchangeable. And maybe he wants to be asked. Maybe he has been waiting. Do not say that. You are only a girl." Then one of the two voices sounded more rigorous. Once there were men who spoke to him and begged him. To us, women, it is proper to wait. And we are not able to offer him anything to entreat his mercy? And what is it you would like to give him, girl? What do you have that you have not been given? And what about giving him what is the greatest privilege? What are you talking about? She never explained that with words, but growing year by year, there was a conviction in her that there was something that even a poor girl like her might offer to her Creator. Again, one day also on a sunny afternoon, the white, magnificent flower rose in front of her in the meadow. It bowed again and said, "Welcome, Miriam. All the highest blessing have come upon you." Instinctively, she covered her ears with her fingers. "Do not say that," she whispered. "I cannot listen to it. I do not want to. I am only an ordinary girl." It did not answer, and it said nothing else. It disappeared, leaving her with a secret of incomprehensible words. She saw it for the third time here on the slope above Nazareth. It was afternoon, and she was following her sheep. This time it shot up in front of her not as a flower, but as a golden pillar of fire. She stepped back in fear, but then she recognized its voice. It said, "Welcome, Miriam. The highest is with you." She slumped to her knees. She pressed her trembling lips hard to the rock that exposed its rough edge from the grass. "Could this be happening?" she whispered. "It is so." The voice from the pillar of fire sounded firmly, as if it were a voice of Hazen pronouncing a court verdict. The pillar was still hanging over her, in flame, but it was not burning out. She heard, "Do not be afraid. You have been hurt. It is you who will conceive a son." The words fell on her bowed head like a shining cascade. They were reducing her to a dust and favored her with life again. As soon as the words sounded out, she raised her head. She was still the same bold girl who was not afraid to ask whether she was allowed to ask the highest. "But after all, I renounced myself, I gave it back to him. So how this can happen?" The voice above her adopted even greater sublimity than before, and at the same time it seemed puffing with admiration at what it was saying. "He himself will come down upon you. He will do all by himself because everything is in his power. How happy you will be, Miriam. He wants to give you a sign. Your aunt will give birth to a son although her time has passed. For you to know, Miriam, do you comprehend all of this? He is asking you whether you agree. He is asking." Emotion wrung her throat and her eyes were filled with tears. She bowed again and forced her forehead onto a sharp moss-grown stone. The pillar like fire was still above her, but now it seemed to be bent in a humble bow. She was surrounded by such a deep silence, as if the entire world around her had withheld its breath. With her lips on the stone she whispered, "I am only a servant. What Lord has decided, may it happen to me." A thunderclap did not strike. Only something like a burning wind flashed over her and swept her with its breath. The pillar of fire bent even lower. It diminished, became pale, and then disappeared. The string of silence broke off suddenly. The world around Miriam came back to life and spoke with thousands of sounds. She could hear the breeze, birds, twittering, sheep, hoofs tramping. Slowly she raised her head. Nobody was around her anymore. The pillar of fire did not burn the grass. The sky did not collapse from the words of admiration she had just heard. The sun was shining as before. The flock around her was bleating. The wind was carrying the sounds of children playing in the town, as well as the callings of the water carriers. She shoved her hand over her forehead and she touched her body incredulously. There were no signs of what had happened, only a stunning joy and an enchantment were within her, and only one thought, the only one, came with a note of anxiety, a thought about Joseph. She loved him so much, and she desired he could be rewarded for his devotion and kindness. She was afraid that he might have been hurt. She was apprehensive that he would not be able to participate in her happiness, but immediately she forced the anxiety away. She had a feeling, if the highest has done something that goes beyond the laws of the world, that he has created to respect her with a gift. Then he will be able to show his condescension to a man who trusted her and was so dear to her. He neither will harm nor humiliate him. He will allow him to participate in her happiness. Hardly 3 days has passed since the man arrived with the news of Elizabeth's expectancy. Daybreak was approaching. She was the first to get up. She was ready again to help those who traveled with her. They were calling, "Hey girl, do this and do that. Bring some water, put the fire on." She was smiling and fulfilling their instructions. When they were served, they would return to their conversation and sometimes burst with coarse laughter, slapping arms of each other. A little later, they bundled things together, and soon after they moved the caravan onwards. She followed them unnoticed as before, carrying a stunning secret in the tails of her coats. Jan Dobraczynski, The Shadow of the Father, Part 1, The Wife, Chapter 11. She left her companions in Jericho. The road from Jericho to Jerusalem was shorter, in fact, than the road on the other side of the river Jordan. But it was not regarded as a safe one. It led through a rocky desert and cut across deep and shadowed ravines, where it was quite common for brigands to hide. So there was a reason to stay with the merchants. Caravan that was heading down to Jerusalem were in Jericho. A large group of people joined it. When they arrived in town, they stayed overnight at the inn. They were preparing to depart in the morning. While the others were loading the camels with packs, Miriam noticed an old man supporting himself with a stick that was talking to the caravan leader. The old man seemed to be asking for something, but the merchant was laughing contemptuously, denying categorically his approval with a wave of his hand. He turned his back at the old man, and one of the servants helped him to climb the back of the camel. As the animal stood up, he barked from the saddle a few more words she did not hear, but they must have been painful words for the old man, like the smack of a whip. He stepped back, covering his face with the tail of his coat. His back was shaking, and she was sure he was crying. She never could stand seeing a weaker person being hurt. She approached the old man while he was standing bent with his face covered. She experienced a strange feeling that this man had been carrying a huge and painful load, and if she said something to him, then she would have to share it with him and become part of it. Yet she decided to ask, "Are you in any need, Father?" He uncovered his face and looked at her with his bright eyes that were partially covered with thin eyelids. "I wanted to go with your caravan," he said, With a trembling voice, I asked that man, I am returning to the holy city. The road is empty and long, and I am alone. And he did not allow you to join us? He did not. And he laughed at me. He said that people as old as me should stay at home instead of traveling on the roads. How could he say that? She called. He is young and strong. He does not know what old age is. It seems to him it will never come to him. And I have to go. I will go and ask him. He will refuse you. I will try. She approached the merchant who was on the camel's back. That man, she said, pointing at him, is asking you to allow him to go with the caravan. He shrugged his shoulders. I already told him I was not taking dead bodies with me. I will take him, he will drop down just outside the gate, and then what will I do with him? Will I leave him on the road as a jackal's prey? You would better stop showing an interest in him and come with us. We are moving now. I cannot leave him alone. You want to stay with him? I will. You are mad. Come, I promised Cleophas I would get you to Jerusalem in one piece. You have brought me here, until here, and I am very grateful to you. You are doing silly thing. You are a girl alone. Still, it is a long one-day journey to Jerusalem. Allow me to do what I believe is right, Miriam said. He snarled something angrily. He seemed to be reconsidering for a while, then he kicked at his camel and moved in front of the caravan that was ready to go. He signaled with his hand. The camels moved on and the group of walkers followed them. Soon they disappeared behind the gates. Walking slowly, she went to where the old man was standing. She suppressed the sadness in her heart caused by the departure of the others. They will be in Jerusalem before the day ends, she was thinking. If I would have gone with them, then I would have been able to see Elizabeth tomorrow morning. There was so much impatience in her, though the desire to take care of the old man was stronger. You are back, he asked when she saw her. I thought you belonged to them and went with them. You were saying that you were alone. I am alone and I will be alone. Then I will go with you. No, no, he opposed. You are a good girl, but you cannot go with me. I am weak and old man. I will be going slowly. We will walk slowly and rest often. No, he was objecting. Nobody will attack me because they know they will get nothing. But if they attack you, I might not be able to protect you. The highest will save us from any misfortune. You are brave and pious. Yet I cannot accept and use your goodness. Find another caravan and join it. I will go with you, father. You are stubborn, I'm begging you. He said no more and turned towards the gate. She walked beside him. They left town and reached the road. For a short time they were walking between colonnades of hairy palm trunks. After coming out of the grooves, the red and naked rocks surrounded them, and they were under a scorching sun. The old man's steps became even slower. She heard his heavy and puffing breath. The road meandered among the rocks and disappeared behind each turn. When the wanderers rounded a turn, it would show a new loop. Every time they approached a turn, the man would increase his pace a little. One might think he was expecting that they were approaching their destination. As he reached each turn, he progressively became weaker. She had to support him. By around noon he was so exhausted, and they had to stop. She spread out her coat in the shadow of the rocks for him and helped him to sit down. She had some water in a leather bag that she gave to the old man. He was drinking slowly, with short sips. Then he asked, "Who are you?" She smiled and said, "I am an ordinary girl like any other girl." "Are you heading to the holy city?" "I'm going even further, to a village in the mountains where my cousins live." "And where are your parents?" "They are dead. I live in Nazareth with my sister." "You have been raised properly. You are not like the others. The young people like you do not care about the elders. They are preoccupied with themselves. They are tough towards the elders." "Maybe parents cannot always understand their children." He shook his head decidedly. "As long as parents are strong, the children make use of their efforts. But when they weaken with age, they turn their backs on them." For a while she smoothed the edge of her coat in her thoughtfulness. "Do you have children, father?" she asked. "I do," he muttered briefly and tightened his lips. He was looking at the rocky gully full of flat stones that looked like loaves of bread. "And surely you love them very much," she said. You would not like them to be touched by misfortune." "That's true," he admitted. "And you pray for them?" "I do." "You are a true father. You cannot be resentful. You are always ready to forgive." "Children do not need forgiveness," he said bitterly, "because they cannot see any guilt in themselves. Maybe this is my sin, that I cannot be rigorous. Yet the highest does not want to be rigorous. He is always ready to forgive, and he does not like to punish. He does not wish people to be afraid of him." She felt his careful glance at her face. His bright eyes were looking at her for a long time from under bushy eyebrows. Instinctively, under the pressure of his side, she lowered her head. "From where do you get such thoughts?" he asked. "You have not been taught such things by anyone. The priests and the honorable doctors say otherwise." "That is true," she admitted, "but somehow, was not this the reason he had given the parents such a love towards their children, to show how much he loves?" He was silent for a while. "You said that boldly," he said at last. "And it is as tough you are not a girl." "My daughters cannot think like that," he sighed. "Maybe," she said quietly, "they are not able to say that." "You are protecting them." He was shaking his head thoughtfully. "Although you yourself are so different." "Children," he sighed again. "When they were small, we care for them. We want to hand down to them what we believe is most important. But they disregard our gifts. They draw the punishment to themselves. And you, Father, would you like to protect them from it?" He waved his head again. "It is as you said." He was silent for a while. Then, drawing something with a stick in the pink dust that covered the road, he resumed. "I prayed to the highest to take my life. I was afraid the moment might have come that I would complain. I do not want to be a prosecutor to them, but he has responded to me." He was silent again. She had a feeling that what he wanted to say was important to him, though difficult to talk about it easily. "That man who did not want to take me with him was not right. I am old, but I would not have died during this journey. He said that I had to live, and I would until I would see." He did not explain who had said that and what he was supposed to see, but to her it seemed that she had found it out. She was silent. Would she be allowed to tell him that the moment of fulfillment is so close? It also was hard for her to tell about the good grace that had been given to her. Besides, she was never able to speak about herself. She was never able to speak about herself. Then after that, I would be able to die peacefully, he finished. They talked no longer. It was time to move on. They walked slowly, step after step. The heat had become even thicker. The old man walked slower and slower, and he had to support himself on her arm. The road seemed extending after every turn, and it was empty. Nobody was passing them by. They stopped to have a rest once more. They said nothing while resting. The old man seemed to have a nap. Miriam felt some kind of pressure above her forehead. She was so tired. Her thoughts became tangled and blood was boiling in her temples. When the time to resume their march came, she could hardly stand up. The Shadow of the Father, Part 1, The Wife, Chapter 12. Finally, the evening flowed down onto the red rocks. They flashed with purple as if flooded with blood, and they changed into the grey soon after. The shadows were throwing spots on the road, as if coats were being spread under their feet. The wind blew. Now it was easy to walk, although they both were exhausted. She realized that they would not reach Jerusalem that day. Regret returned because one more day would pass, or maybe more, before she would see Elizabeth. Together with that sudden regret, she was seized with anxiety. Imagination with distressing images suggested what could happen if they stayed overnight alone in this wilderness. Usually she could control her imagination, but the exhaustion prevented her from doing it this time. There were not only images, some voice also seemed whispering, "Since you have been chosen, then you should be taking care of yourself. You have disregarded that. You are playing a caregiver for an old man who has been abandoned by his children. And maybe they were right. You only know what he has told you. You disregarded unusual gifts. You expose yourself recklessly to a risk. He may take his grace back. He does not even have to do anything at all. It simply will not happen what you believe has happened." She was not trying to have a discussion with that voice. Simply she was trying to stifle it. She was saying to herself, this man was in need of help. She could not even remember her father. All her life she was missing that unknown man who once had carried her in her arms. She always had a weakness for the elderly. Her father, whom she knew briefly, was an old man who had fatherly desires, the same as this man desires, of whom she took care. Their loneliness was painful to her. She realized that no one of them should be left in despair. It is impossible that the highest might be angry with her because she has taken care of that old man. He would not be who he is. She said that to herself with impudent persuasion. The dusk fell around them like a fallen dark curtain, but that dusk that surrounded them allowed Miriam to see the flashing small lights in the distance. Over there on the hillside in front of them was a human settlement. "Just a little bit more, Father," she said. "Look, the lights. Are there any people are there? Just a little bit further and we will find help and shelter." The old man was completely exhausted, yet he struggled and stumbled with every step. She was leading him at first, then she had to haul him. And herself, she was struggling with the last bit of her energy. Every few steps she had to stop. They both were puffing. "Leave me," he was saying. "No, no, leave. No, you said he had promised you. Since you have been told to leave, you have to get there." The night had already fallen when they reached the first of the houses. Some of them were closed and people were asleep, but there was a fire in front of one of them, and a family was sitting there. All of them started up when they saw a deadly exhausted old man carried almost by a young girl. The man took the old man's arm and helped him sit by the wall. Somehow she was not able to stay still, and he was falling down. Then they carried him on their hands into the house. Miriam sat down on the ground. Now she realized how much exhausted she was. All of her body was hurting and sweat was running down her forehead despite a cool breeze. Some woman approached and embraced her. That must have been the householder's wife. Her face was sad. "You are so tired, girl. Did you carry him for a long time?" she asked. "From Jericho." "Oh, Adonai, all the way from Jericho? Did you hear that?" She was speaking to those sitting by the fire. "She has been carrying him all the way from Jericho. He's hardly alive and she's the same. Poor girl. Did you have to walk such a long way?" "He wanted to. He could not walk by himself." "Is he your father or grandfather, perhaps?" "No, I don't know him. I met him in Jericho." "And you were leading him all the way? Could anybody walk with him?" "I know who that man is," one man said, who helped the old man into the house and then returned to the fireplace. "His name is Simeon. He lives in Bezetha. Once he was a rich merchant, but his wife died and the children left him. He is alone and he is a very pious man. He used to do so much good for other people and he helped the poor." "How did it happen that he was in Jericho?" "Maybe he went there to see his daughter. She lives there." "That should have been her bringing him back home or give him a lift." "Come, girl," the woman said. "You must get some rest. You are so young, almost a child. I will prepare something for you to eat, and then you have to lie down." Miriam followed her into the house without objection. Now, when she moved after sitting for a while by the fire, she felt her body was in pain, as if being beaten. Every movement of her body caused pain. A baby was crying in the dark corner of the room hardly, lit by the table lamp. "Why is it crying that much?" she asked. A woman's voice answered in the darkness. "You would better do not ask." She heard as the mother was sniveling tearfully. Miriam came close to the baby's shakedown and leaned over it. The woman said, "You would better do not touch him." She comprehended what the woman was talking about at once. On the baby's red little face she could clearly see the white spots. She felt a shiver came through her body. "Come," the woman said. She moved around the room, still sighing and sniveling. She put barley bread and a cup of milk on the table. "Eat," she said with an encouraging gesture of her hand. Miriam was too tired to eat. She only drank some milk greedily. The woman sat down beside her at the table. Now in the dim light Miriam could see her eyes swollen with tears, an expression of pain on her trembling lips. "I do not know myself where the sickness came from," she said suddenly. "What's wrong we have done that the highest had touched us so severely?" Miriam heard her fast breathing for a while. "The priest paid us a visit. He saw him. He said that I should have given him away. that he could not stay in the village. "And he is my firstborn," she sobbed, "my Lazarus." She cried for a little while. Miriam was quiet. The woman's pain was becoming her pain. She would do anything to comfort her. Then the sobbing ceased, and the woman asked, "Will you not be eating?" "I cannot, though. I drank the milk." "In that case, come, you must lie down." She pointed Miriam to a corner where she had spread a few blankets. Miriam lay down after saying a short prayer. Although quite exhausted, she felt she would not be able to sleep. The baby was quiet for a short time, and then it woke up and began crying again. But its mother was not asleep. Her uneven breathing was showing that she got up from her bed from time to time. She went to the baby and then she lied down again. Her painful body relaxed. The question returned, "So it has happened what the other one said it had happened." There was no doubt in her of the possibility of a miracle occurring by itself, not even a hesitation. She was sure that nothing was impossible for him. Even the notion of unworthiness dimmed with her. She had not stopped believing that she was an ordinary girl. Yet she acknowledged that if the Highest wanted to choose her with all her ordinaries, he had done so because he wanted to show how much he had loved human beings. Now she understood that the one who appeared before her in the form of a flower and fire was preparing her. It was teaching her how to be submissive, how to stay above it with gratefulness and a childish joy towards the magnificence of what was supposed to happen. That miracle's moment had not struck her yet. She was approaching it, being led gently. Even if she was questioning what has happened, and it was supposed to happen, then it had been happening because an inner sobriety had been left within her. Miriam did not doubt that miracle, though she knew illusions and the illusions existed. She trusted God, but did not trust herself. The messenger seemed to comprehend that. In these humble words, so very humble as if he were not coming from above, it seemed to her that she had heard an announcement of a confirming sign. Then, when in a few days later the message from Elizabeth arrived, she experienced a shock. This is that sign, she thought. Otherwise, why would she be told that Elizabeth would give birth to a son? He did not have to convince her about the Highest omnipotence. That is why she wanted to see her aunts as quickly as possible. That is why she rushed into the journey, being unmindful of its danger and hardship. That is why she preferred to go alone. If she had gone with the others in the morning, she would have been able to see the woman who had raised her. She would have known how the woman had accepted the condescension given to her. The man who brought the news said that Elizabeth had been hiding at home and that she had not been seeing anyone. The aunt, she was thinking, would teach her how to act when a phenomenon is hidden in ordinaries. She would explain to her what to talk about and what to leave in silence, and how to behave in order to harm not a loving man. She was burning with impatience to see Elizabeth as soon as possible. She did not regret her deed in spite of that. Simeon was in need of a help, not because he was only a harmed father. The highest had given him a promise as a consolation, and she was the carrier of that promise. In that case, he has already started to exist, and he will become her child. He will be a small person who will require care, and he will be someone extremely unusual at the same time. However, these two matters seemed irreconcilable, but she did not worry about it. Simply, she was waiting for what would happen. She did not want to demand anything or ask for anything. Who has received as much as she has, she was thinking, should leave everything to the giver. The sick child in the corner of the room started crying louder and more painfully. The mother did not move, though. Tiredness must have put her into a deep sleep. In the end, she was breathing heavily but evenly. Miriam sat up on her shakedown. This had come to her as an order. She got up quietly and walked on tiptoe to the crying baby. As she walked towards the baby, it seemed to her a voice was whispering, "Do not approach. Do not touch. You are the chosen one. You must care for yourself." This time she stifled that voice in herself at once. She pulled out her hand and placed it on the baby's red-hot forehead. She said to her, "Since you exist, do make my hand to be yours for a moment. May it bring some relief." The touch of her hand had made the boy stop crying. Her fingers were gently stroking the ill baby's cheeks. She felt the flakes of dead skin as she dried the baby's tears. She desired nothing else but to calm it down and make it asleep. And indeed, its sobbing diminished and finally ceased. Its breathing became tranquil, and it went to sleep. The mother did not wake up. Miriam returned to her shakedown quietly.